It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Anne Ganguza.
Hey everyone. Welcome to the VO Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Anne Ganguza, along with the illustrious, most beautiful Miss Keisha Monk. Hey, Keisha.
Bonjour, comment allez-vous?
I'm doing good, except last week I had to prepay my taxes. And
God.
That is never... That is never something that I look forward to doing. However, I feel accomplished that at least I'm prepaying taxes, because that means I must be making money. So that's a good thing.
Exactly.
That is a good thing. I will be grateful for that. And I will be grateful to my accountant.
I'm sure.
It's always something that people ask about when they start their businesses. And, I saw a couple of questions on the groups today about what are some, tips for, it's getting towards that time where we're going to have to do the taxes.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Shall we talk about it? Or at least let's talk about our practices. I mean,
we can. Let's do it.
I have, I will say, right here and now, that I love my accountant. It was one of the best business decisions that I ever made, was to hire an accountant and keep her on retainer. So literally, it became painful for me to start keeping track of all the finances and all that good stuff. I don't know about you, Keisha, but that is not a thing I love to do.
Like, it totally isn't. But you know what? It's a good thing that I'm feeling kind of frustrated, because now I think I'm coming into my flavor, and now I actually am working enough where I literally have to worry about it at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're grateful for that. We're grateful for that, right? But then, so what are some good practices for bosses out there to do? Well, I would say, first of all, make sure that you are a company, like you're in whatever state you work or whatever is required, that you have a separate account, a separate business account where you can, draw from and deposit your income into, and that way you can have an accountant and just give them that business account. So it's important to, first of all, establish the business. And I'll tell you what, Keisha, I was a DBA for many years, because in the state of California, that's really all I needed in order to get myself a special account, a business account, and it just served me, and it was relatively cost effective. And I know I've talked about this on past podcasts, but what are you doing for your business? Are you a DBA? Are you LLC?
Well, the thing is, before I even get into that, if you're listening, bosses, try not to commingle your funds. You will have a headache.
Oh, God.
I have had plenty of headaches that I can tell you about. But once you establish yourself as, well, for me, I am a sole proprietorship. And you get your tax ID, and you go ahead and open up that bank account. It makes life so much easier to deposit all of your, voiceover checks into that account and draw, for the business. There are, I write off a lot of things, like,
absolutely.
Carpet. I needed carpet for my studio, I did. I did. Even when I purchased...
It's sound absorption material right there.
For sure, absolutely. Anything from... I put my AA batteries that go on my little light.
Oh my gosh, yes.
As far as, those batteries kind of, they pile up during it. It certainly is. And so, yes, I am a sole proprietorship. I've got my little bank account, and that's how I operate.
So I'll tell you that it makes it, I'm going to say, being at least part of the digital age makes me a little happy, because I don't have to keep track of the paper receipts as much as I used to, which was always so, oh my gosh, that just used to give me a knot in my stomach at the end of the year, when I hadn't really done much during the year to checks and balances with my accounts to go and find those receipts and make sure that they were available in a folder. I had one big folder where I threw all the receipts.
Me too.
But then it was like, I forgot to rotate that folder when the year changed. And then it just became messy. And, sometimes those receipts, when you go to the office supply store, they're on that thermal paper. And so, like, if they're, like, almost a year old, like, oh, my gosh, yeah. And so I don't even know, like, what it was that I paid. And so I'm thankful now that things are more digital. And so if, I would always give this tip, if you guys are getting receipts, if you can get digital receipts or emailed receipts, that is really awesome. Or if you can do things electronically, for example, I when I got my bank account, it was wonderful. I also made sure that I got a business credit card as well. That is probably another thing that really saved me a lot of work, was just anything that I purchased went on that business credit card, and I paid that credit card off every month. It was just one of those things that I was like, well, I'm not paying interest on that.
Right. So, exactly.
But that way, all of my monthly statements could be digitally downloaded.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can't do the credit card, definitely do the debit card. So you'll have that,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And
absolutely.
checks.
For everything. For sure. Absolutely. Oh, and here's another tip, because I just thought of this. If you do the credit card, make sure you get a credit card where you can earn points.
Yes.
And those points or cash back. And then that way you can just continue to reinvest into the business. You know what I mean? For free money.
Absolutely.
It's free money.
Yeah.
I've done
Absolutely. And I have to say, Keisha, I did have to order, like, who writes checks? Like, I mean, there are still some, some people that I pay that need checks. And so therefore, I had to get checks. Oh my goodness, they are so expensive these days.
They are.
It's kind of crazy.
I don't use checks at all, but
Well, I try not to, but I do have some vendors that I have to pay with checks. They only accept checks.
Got it.
Probably for the reason why we want to accept checks for the most part is that we don't get a fee taken out of it. If it's a digital transaction through PayPal or Stripe or a credit card transaction, we're always paying that fee. But with a check, and I always like, can't we just all just do direct deposit? But that has been helped, of course, by there's Zelle, there's Venmo, there's all kinds of direct deposit, which is really lovely. Except I would say to the bosses out there, if you have an electronic account like Venmo, make sure that it's not your personal account and that it's going to your business account so that everything is channeled through your accounts. I think I have multiple accounts that I allow, and as I said before, my accountant have access to through my software. So I do an online software through QuickBooks. I love Quicken Online, and my accountant has access to it. And the cool thing is that I can look at what she's doing while she's doing it. And we can be on the phone together, and she can be, most of the time, what happens is, for me, you have to categorize you have to categorize things.
Yes.
So this is an expense, this is income, whatever it is, and what type of an expense it is. And so that's usually where you have to be in communication with your accountant. To make sure that you have the proper categories there. And then as they get to know you, they pretty much will know, like, based on the vendor, what category to put it in. And that, I think, is a very important thing.
Extremely important. So let me ask you, do you track, like, your auditions? And then, because there is software out there where you could literally put all of your auditions into the system, and then you put the amount that you that it would be the talent fee that would be received if you were to get it. And then if you book it, you just click booked, and then it automatically knows, oh, you've earned, $1,200 for this particular thing. And then it kind of intertwines with your QuickBooks. Do you do any of these outside?
That's actually really kind of cool. I only know of one software right now, or a couple of different softwares that would allow you to do that right now. And I know that there is a service out there that I can't remember the name of it. Oh, goodness. That is out there that can do that. But I don't audition enough. I audition for my agents. But in terms of, having that be, I could live without that. Probably, right? And just manually.
Just another,
But that's kind of an interesting. That's an interesting little shortcut.
Yeah, it is because I audition a lot. I really, really do. And to so much until it's just, I mean, and again, I can't
nice
remember
to be able
the
to
name
just
of it.
click it. Click it.
And then like you can kind of like input like which agency you are.
Absolutely.
And so once you put the audition in, you just click the drop down and you select which agent it's for and you just put the money in. And yeah,
and that's great because not only are you doing your accounting, but you're tracking your success rate with your auditions.
Absolutely.
I
And that's
did
another
that
thing
in the
that it
beginning.
does.
I did that in the beginning when I was in a lot of pay-to-plays. I actually kept track. It's not with the software that's out there now, which is great. I think it's Danny States does something. She has a software that tracks your auditions. And then there's also another one paid that I can't remember the name of it, but you can keep track of your auditions as well. And that's really great in figuring out like what's working for you and what may not be working for you.
Yes. Definitely. Dang it! I should have copied and pasted the name of that little joker. Because it really does help me. And then it's good on the analytics. Like it just
Absolutely.
it gives you little graphs on how much you booked this month versus what you didn't book. And again, it's an excellent tool to help you figure out where to hone in on what you may need improvement on. I don't know
exactly,
but it's good. It's good. It all works out.
Let's talk about any type of, that's reporting on your auditions. What about reporting on your income and reporting on, what expenses, what are you spending a lot of money on? Like this year, I spent kind of a little bit of money on my studio because it was built for me this year. And so that's going to be a big, huge expense. And I also spent some money on website hosting because I have multiple websites. So that's an expense. Also, I have a certain amount of money that I spend on subscription programs. So, which would be my mail programs. It's
me too. Me too.
Yeah,
I'm going to have a ton
crazy.
of the important thing is to you just really have to keep track. And also, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I mean, seriously, like if I'm going to do, new headshots and I got to go get my pictures taken or I got to go get my hair done, I should say, that's an expense. That's a legitimate business expense. A lot of people don't think about stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. No, I used to do back when we could travel, and I used to travel
back in the day.
The shows, the conferences, and I used to speak at the conferences. If I got my hair done, that was absolutely an expense.
Oh, girl, and I know you had to write those nails, those pretty nails of yours.
I did the nails. Yeah. I did the nails too. That was a thing.
The nail polish cost money, didn't it? Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because it's similar to like if you're an on-camera actor, right? If you're going to be out there presenting, or it's part of your brand. And so I literally made my nails part of my brand.
Right.
And so that became like an expense. So bosses, every single thing that you use for your business, you need to actually consider it if it's an expense. Like, can you, can you expense your nails? Maybe not now unless maybe you're presenting on a Zoom webinar and people have to see your nails.
Why not? Listen, I can't see why that wouldn't be legitimate.
Yeah, absolutely. You have an image to uphold. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Keisha, do you have any particular software that you use? Do you use an electronic software to keep track of your accounts, or how is that happening right now? Or do you collect your receipts and then you're going to be doing something like, will you give it to your accountant, or will you do TurboTax?
Old school. And you know what? This year I'm definitely going to shift because I feel that there is a shift in the atmosphere as it relates to new work, and I've got to really get better. But really, what I do is I just make sure that whatever expenses I have, I just always use my debit card. And then that way I don't have to keep up with receipts and whatnot. I can just download my entire statements and just, highlight all of the minus signs. And I just give that to my accountant, she's, by the way, in California.
Well, I'm going to say, though, it's important that you actually, have a regimen to at least look at your statements every month. I can't stress that enough, because sometimes, when you have a credit card, I tend to be like, oh, just throw that on they make it so easy to use your credit card these days.
They do.
If you happen to be buying something on Amazon and the credit card is stored and you just click. And so make sure that you are looking at those statements every month, because things can kind of get out of control, and then all of a sudden it will register on your credit card as some weird vendor, and then you won't know what you spent your money on. So I actually make it a point every month to sit down and go through my credit card statement, and my bank statement, because you want to make sure. A lot of times what will happen is people will pay me through PayPal or Stripe. Those are the two electronic methods that I have, or they'll do direct deposit, but a lot of people pay me through PayPal and Stripe. And so what happens is PayPal accumulates a certain amount of money, and then after a while I'll check every week or two and I'll just download, because I don't want to keep a ton of money in PayPal. I like to keep only $1,000 in PayPal in case, I don't know, something weird happens.
Right.
So I only keep $1,000 in PayPal at a time, and I download the rest to my bank account. Well, when it downloads it, it downloads it as just one big glump amount.
Right.
That's a word, glump, by the way. One big amount. And so my accountant has to go and download the statements from PayPal to figure out what was the actual category of the payment, so that she can reconcile it in my QuickBooks. So it's important for you to kind of keep track, because sometimes software is like sometimes the QuickBooks will automatically try to make things easier for you, but in reality it doesn't make it easier for you. So it'll assign, a vendor. Let's say you get paid $100, and the last person that paid you was a different vendor that paid $100. It might want to assign that same vendor name. So it'll screw up. So you've got to be on top of things before it escalates and gets out of control. It's like at the end of the year when you look at your folder and it's like, oh my gosh, I have 2,500 receipts and I don't know what happened when. I can't read the date. What did I buy that for? And sometimes the receipt doesn't have the item. So if you're saving receipts, I always used to write on my receipts to what it was in pen, just to make sure.
But you know what?
I knew what it was.
Now that I think about it, there is, and again, we're doing all of this wonderful, sharing tips and whatnot. It'd be great if we could name some things, but I don't want to be an endorser. But there is an app that you can scan your receipt.
Yes.
And you can also, there's
totally
a little note
recommend.
section, where you can just enter what the information is, just in case it isn't legible. So, digital is the way to go. Paper sucks.
That's assuming that you have paper receipts, right? And I always try to get electronic receipts if I can. But sometimes that's not a possibility. So I would say schedule yourself some time on a monthly basis so that you can actually, for your own knowledge, figure out what are my incoming, right? What are people paying me? What's my incoming income? And what am I paying out? So that can, keep an Excel spreadsheet, whatever you've got to do, or get QuickBooks. There's lots of,
QuickBooks
a lot of people,
great.
FreshBooks, they use FreshBooks. What's some other ones? Microsoft Money.
Microsoft Money, yeah.
And I would say that is going to be definitely worth your investment. And if you can, I'm telling you, hands down, the best thing I ever did was hire my accountant. And it's not really expensive. So it's definitely a monthly fee. But by the end of the year, let me tell you how simple it is for her to do taxes, and she can generate reports for me. So she can say, okay, this month you did really well in automotive voiceover, or you did really well in your e-learning voiceover, or you spent a lot of money on your studio, Anne, what's going on? And again, those subscriptions that can kind of get away from you, a lot of times the software subscriptions. So for example, I have an Adobe subscription. And by the way, if you're checking those things, you make sure my Adobe subscription keeps every once in a while, like every year, it'll go up.
Yeah.
And then I have to call them and say, wait a minute, I'm a teacher. Because I get the teacher rate because I taught for many, many years. And so, or I had it at this rate, and I call back and say, well, what just happened? Did it go up? And why did it go up? Usually I can get that, back down. But you have to make sure that your costs are still the same. And those subscriptions can kind of they're a little slippery sometimes.
Yeah, they can be. You got to really, really pay attention. Another expense that I really literally started doing was I buy a lot of apps that help me make my social media tools, things for there's one to automate. I subscribe to a service called Over, which is basically it's like a graphics app, but I use that when I want to post little clips of audio and I want to animate it. I want to have the nice text. It's like $99 a year, but it's so worth it to me. These are all legitimate and very, very great expense. Your return on investment is going to be, quadrupled.
Goodness,
So
software is kind of that thing that you don't think about all the time. But I use Canva.
Me too.
I use Dropbox. I do a yearly professional subscription for that.
WeTransfer.
Adobe. It's, there's just a lot of things. And every web hosting site out there, DNS, when I buy my domain names, that's also a charge. My web developer is a charge. I have a team of people that work for me that they are expenses as well. So it's
a real business. It's a real business.
It is a real business. And I was thinking about it's going to be another episode is how to be a real boss when you have a team of people, because that adds a whole additional element to things. But those also need to be accounted for when you are doing your end of year, and you'll need to provide W-9s or that sort of thing at the end of the year. And again, it's really nice to have my accountant who can just generate any needed paperwork.
Yes, absolutely.
That she needs to do. So
yeah, that's really, really dope. So
guys, make it a definite part of your monthly process to just, first of all, get that separate business account, get that separate credit card, get the separate digital PayPal account.
Co-mingling. No
co-mingling. Co-mingling will make your life a misery. So don't do that. And then make sure that you schedule some time regularly to go through that. And third, I would say get yourself an accountant.
For sure.
The best thing in the world. By the way, the accountant can tell you if you're unsure as to how, what type of, everybody's, should I do an LLC? Should I do by the way, I have an S Corp now, but I started with a DBA. But my accountant was very helpful in telling me when it was going to be appropriate for me, right, to go from one to the other, because I would save money on taxes. So
right, that makes sense.
So, all right. I know it's not fun stuff, but you know what? It's necessary stuff. So, Keisha, thanks so much for sharing those awesome tips. And you bosses, it's coming up on tax time. So,
yeah, baby.
Yeah. Big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can connect and network like a boss. Find out more at IPDTL.com. You guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.